Cameron, it's my pleasure. I saw your bio and I said, oh, this is an interesting guy. And I know you have a particular interest in sort of the healthcare world and how things can work better. So that's a hot topic. In fact, our last episode, I talked with a former congressman and who has a company that is working to sort of provide better, more efficient, lower cost healthcare to millions of people. Everyone is struggling to find solutions. So before we get to that, let's find out how you got to where you are. What's your medical background?
Certainly. So, as you mentioned earlier, I started out as an EMT back in Philadelphia. And what's fascinating about that is that you're seriously on the front lines of healthcare. You know, they talk about doctors being on the front lines, and yes, they are. But EMTs actually go into the communities, and we're walking into houses to pick people up, and bringing people to dialysis centers and seeing the real world impacts of the diseases that we write about. And so I then began writing as a journalist, and this was during the COVID pandemic. And I wrote for the Smithsonian Magazine, the Washington Post, all about how can we improve healthcare, how can we improve access and affordability, and not just for medicine, but for medical training as well. And that's where I really fell in love with this whole process of making medicine a little bit less of an untouchable entity that people just accept. And that has for many years reduced medical trust, because doctors have been able to do a lot of things with underprivileged communities in the 1950s and even earlier, that were just eroding medical trust in communities. And so a lot of my work, including at the National Academy of Sciences, was improving, and I wrote a paper about this, improving the relationship between the medical community and the communities that they benefit. So from there, I shifted more toward, okay, we can write about this all we want, but how can we actually affect change? And this is where I really got into the world of medicine, and I wanted to be a doctor. So that's my background. And yeah,